I am getting sick and tired of Alex Way. As I said before, I used to watch some of his early videos, and I'll give him credit. I thought his personal stories and challenges were interesting and helpful. He talked a lot about his challenges growing up, his family upbringing, his challenges with academia and the lack of opportunities he faced with career prospects with a physics degree, and he talked a lot about modern life and dating and the economy. And look, like with anyone, you'll find moments where people make good points. But, and as I said before, Alex Way is not a wise person. He is another example of the phenomenon of what is known as audience capture on YouTube, where influencers or YouTubers or whatever you want to call them, they deviate from their earlier topics, and then they decide to talk about politics. And there's a reason for this. All right, Alex Way has probably reached a point in his channel where the nature videos and some of the personal stories are not enough for his audience, and he realizes that probably a lot of his audience, is very angry, and they want answers, and they need someone to tell them what they want to hear. So Alex Way has decided to become another political grifter. And he just feeds off the anger of politics in America. And if you're not familiar with that concept of audience capture, look it up. Let me ask you something. Don't you think it's a weird coincidence that Alex Way puts Nick Fuentes in several of his thumbnails in his videos so far, labeling Nick Fuentes as America first? He's for America first. And he did another video where he puts a picture of Nick Fuentes and with the caption, "Woke is over," and Alex Way is next. His face is next to Nick Fuentes' face, and Alex is smiling. And then he did a latest video about the Piers Morgan interview, which I'll get to in a second. But don't you think it's a weird coincidence that he puts Nick Fuentes in and constantly talks about him? All right. And if you saw my first video where I calmly criticized, looking back, I was actually being pretty gentle with my criticism of Alex Way. And then I got a swarm of hornets and bees. His supporters started filling the comments with accusations that I'm some sort of Israeli spy and CIA spy op, and spreading lies about me. And it was like being attacked by a swarm of wasps. All right, just really, really nasty comments, just for the crime of constructively criticizing Alex Way. Anyways, as I stated before, Nick Fuentes, he supports Hitler. He's advocated for dictatorship. He says that Jim Crow laws after the Civil War weren't that bad, and that black people weren't compatible with civilization. Nick Fuentes has joked about women wanting to be raped. Nick Fuentes says that certain Jews should get the death penalty when they take power. I don't have to repeat all of it. You can look it up. It's well documented. There's videos. And by the way, they're not out of context. He's not joking. Okay? He means what he says. And Alex Way is a coward because he obviously likes Nick Fuentes. But the weird thing is that Alex Way, he pretends to be neutral. He'll constantly say things like, "Oh, both sides are bad. And by the way, this is not a video about, supporting or disavowing him. But Nick makes good points and, and blah, blah, blah." Look, here's the insidious thing. I obviously believe and know that Nick Fuentes is terrible for our society. All right, he's kind of a modern day version of what Hitler was promoting in the 30s. And the reason why people like Hitler and people like Nick Fuentes were so popular is because they tapped into the grievances and the challenges of young men. Now, two things can be true at once. Yes, young men are struggling. Yes, the economy is very unfair. And that dating is very hard now. And all these things are true. But let me ask you this. Is the solution to all that to support like a guy like Nick Fuentes who's a neo-Nazi? Like seriously, can you just find, out of the hundreds of millions of people in this country, can't you find a better role model than Nick Fuentes? You know, Alex Way, for a guy who says, oh, I don't support or disavow Nick Fuentes, why is he putting Nick Fuentes' face in all the thumbnails? And if you also have time, go to Alex Way's YouTube channel, not under videos, but under posts. A while back, when Kanye West made that music video, that song, which was literally called Heil Hitler, and it's like Kanye West singing about, Hitler, and it's called Heil Hitler. Alex Way, his response was to make a stupid poll for the YouTube. He put 4 options. Number 1, Alex asked his fans, do you think the song represents the end of wokeness and cancel culture, and then puts like a fire emoji? Or do you think Kanye West is just mentally unstable and he needs to get off his meds? Or third, do you think it was a political statement? Or number 4, I didn't see the video. Notice what Alex Way didn't put as an option in the poll. He didn't put, Kanye West's video was very immoral and unethical and it's really bad. No, he leaves the option open. Like putting a poll as a reaction to Kanye West's Heil Hitler song is a really weird thing, because by making a poll where one of the options is really positive, like, oh, it's the end of wokeness, and there's a fire emoji, Alex Way's opening the door to the possibility that he thinks that the Heil Hitler song is just owning the libs. Like Alex Way, I tried to be nice. That first video you watched where it's called Alex Way is Wrong, I tried to be reasonable. I even reached out to him on the comments on one of his videos, and then he deleted it. I was very respectful and polite. But I'm reaching the point where I don't have any patience for his crap anymore. All right? His YouTube channel sucks. He's a grifter. He's a coward. And let me address one thing before I end this video. Look, as far as the Piers Morgan interview, 2 things can be true at the same time. Nick Fuentes is evil, and yes, Piers Morgan is a grifter. When Piers Morgan did the unthinkable in that interview. Number 1, he shouldn't have interviewed Nick Fuentes in the first place. But once you interview him, Piers Morgan made a mistake, right? When he made some comment about Nick Fuentes never having sex before. And here's the thing. It doesn't matter who you're talking to. If you make fun of a young guy who's never had sex before, you've pretty much done the worst possible thing, because one of the reasons why a lot of guys support Nick Fuentes is because they feel that Nick Fuentes is representative of the disaffected male who's never had sex and is struggling in the economy. And look, and I've said this before, dating is hard. We should not be shaming young men for being virgins, all right? There's nothing wrong in of itself of never having sex, all right? It's more of a byproduct of just the loneliness epidemic in our country. So Piers Morgan screwed up, and he essentially turned Nick Fuentes in that moment into a sympathetic figure, because everyone's like, oh my God, maybe Nick Fuentes is right. If he's right about, the quote-unquote left shaming men for being virgins, and maybe Nick Fuentes is right about everything. No, Piers Morgan doesn't represent the left. Piers Morgan's an idiot. And what Alex Way does is he says, look, Piers Morgan represents Alex Way basically implies that Piers Morgan represents the entire left. He doesn't. All right. For example, me personally, I consider myself kind of center left. I consider myself pretty moderate, but I don't consider Piers Morgan an ally on the left. He's just a grifter. So just keep that in mind, okay? If you are a young man and you are struggling with the economy, with dating, or with anything going on in the culture, just know that Nick Fuentes is not the answer to it. There's a difference between people who try to create solutions to solve the pain of people and the people who exploit that pain. So anyway, hope you got something out of this video. If you liked it, subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, and have a good day.